Zany ideas on how to fix the Ranger power play, grievances from the listeners, and reasons for optimism. It is all here on today's very special Mailbag edition.
You're Locked on the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 1425 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. And we are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. So, gonna go ahead and basically open up the mailbag, dive into the YouTube comment section and whatnot, and just kind of get the pulse of Ranger fans and see how you guys are feeling. This is going to be one of several episodes that will auto-publish while I'm away on vacation. And then once I'm back at the end of the week, you know, we'll dive right back into proper New York Ranger hockey and everything that's been happening on the ice. But for right now, like I said, good time to get the pulse of the listeners and the fans of this Ranger team. So, going to go ahead and have a couple different topics here. We're going to have a section where fans basically air their grievances, everything that they don't like about this Ranger team. We'll close today's episode with some reasons for optimism, but we begin with some ideas from you guys on how to fix the Ranger power play. Not too long ago, I asked a question on Twitter, what is your best idea of how to fix the Ranger power play and get it going again? And I specifically mentioned the zanier the idea, the better. So we got some pretty funny suggestions from you guys. We also got some replies that were, you know, more straightforward and a little bit more serious. So we'll read a whole bunch of those right here, right now. But to be fair, we do have to point this out. The Rangers power play was dead last in the NHL. 32 out of 32 teams. And as of this recording, and this is before the game against Tampa Bay, the Rangers have climbed out of the basement ever so slightly. They are now 30th of 32 teams in the NHL. They are now ahead of the Flames and somehow the Canes as well. But again, let's go ahead and dive into some of the funnier responses from you guys to this question. We begin with double defense. Reverse psychology. Refuse to shoot at all. Opposing teams can get so confused that they accidentally score for us. Can't be worse than the current strategy. Yeah, I mean, hey, when this question was asked, the Rangers were dead last in the NHL. You can't fall out of dead last place. So there's an idea for you. We had Alan Selavka. I hope I'm saying that right. He very simply just posted a GIF from the movie Slapshots. You guys got to stop losing. Get the power play together. Yeah, I haven't watched that movie in quite some time. I think I'm probably overdue, but absolutely got to get the power play working. EB says, put injury-free Chris Kreider in a Lafreniere jersey and hope that nobody notices. I think somebody's going to notice. Rock Simpson says, trade Laffy for Kreider. Jack Lyons says, trade for Kreider. Yeah, so there's obviously a lot of Kreider love out there from Ranger fans, and I totally get it. Somebody that was synonymous with Ranger hockey for a decade and a half, and obviously one of his biggest contributions to this team was on the power play. That and the playoffs. Those are the two areas where when Kreider was traded, you knew that's where you were probably going to miss his presence more so than anything else. The power play for the entire regular season and the playoffs as well. And then certainly just his overall play in the playoffs, because, you know, as we know, he tends to kick his game up to another level when it comes to postseason hockey. And he's off to a heck of a start with the Ducks. I mean, we got to obviously give it to him here. Kreider has 9 goals, 3 assists in 12 games with the Ducks. I couldn't be happier for him. I mean, again, I've talked about this off and on through here. It felt like this was inevitable. It felt like the best thing for both sides was a clean break between the Rangers and Chris Kreider, but he's over there absolutely killing it for the Ducks right now. 5 of his 9 goals have occurred on the power play, so obviously he's helping them in that department as well. You know, Kreider bouncing back isn't shocking. The one that's like truly just absolutely has floored me, and I think a lot of other Ranger fans and just general hockey fans as well, is the bounce back from Jacob Trouba. You could honestly make an argument that he's playing better hockey than he ever has in his life. I mean, he's off to a heck of a start with the Ducks thus far. So we'll continue everything going here as far as, suggestions on how to fix the Ranger power play here. Here's a collection of suggestions that were a little bit more straightforward, some more practical ideas for how to fix the Ranger power play. And we'll end on some of the funny ones as well. But Abe says, unironically, play power play 2 more. The first unit is out there so much that I wouldn't be shocked if they've exhausted every single play possible and that other teams have their tendencies down just as much. maybe since Fox's PK time has gone down, why not try him with power play 2 and see what happens? Yeah, I mean, you could try that. You could try to spread the wealth a little bit. I always kind of tend to lean toward, putting all your best players on the top power play unit just because, that unit's always going to get the first crack at it. And, you would seemingly maximize your chances for scoring a power play goal by doing that. Fox is somebody that I don't think I would drop him off the top power play unit just because, which defenseman are you going to put out there? It would probably be Schneider, but I just think you lose a lot going from Fox to Schneider on your top power play unit. But Abe, I absolutely think there's something to what you said there as far as other teams knowing the Rangers' tendencies. That's kind of what just naturally happens when you've got a power play group that's been together for as long as this Ranger group has. Now, granted, Chris Kreider is no longer there. But for a while there, yeah, I mean, it did start to look like last season that everything the Rangers were trying, teams had it figured out. We've talked about in the past how there have been times where they've over-relied on feeding one-timers to Mika Zibanejad, and they really did that last year when it just clearly was not working anymore. So they've at least gotten away from that, and I think they're mixing it up a little bit. I do think there are better days ahead of the power play, but if you want to try spreading the wealth, among the two power play groups and divide time equally, I'm not going to fight you too much. Again, I prefer the stacked top power play unit, but if you want to try that, I mean, maybe something clicks and maybe something works. And at that point, I mean, healthy competition, right? Whichever power play unit looks better, they get the first crack at it on the next power play that the Rangers earn. Nicole says, be less stationary, move the puck quicker, get someone to stand in front of the net like Kreider on top of the goalie so his vision is completely taken away, not 10 feet out in the bumper where JT is trying to stand. Yeah, so this comment was made before the Rangers added Will Cooley to the top power play unit in place of Alexis Lafreniere, and I think Nicole was kind of ahead of the game here in terms of getting somebody to do that, because that's when you watch the Rangers, that's kind of what they've been doing with Will Cooley. He's right in the crease there. He's right in the goalie's face, and Cooley actually did score a power play goal not too long after moving up to the top unit. The interesting thing there, though, is that it was kind of like on the rush into the zone, and he scored from, the high slot area, maybe a little bit into the left face-off circle as well. But I do like this idea. I mean, I do have to have somebody in front of the net. We saw with the second power play unit early in the season, they had Matt Rempe there. There's no reason not to do that with the top power play unit. I think Will Cooley, in terms of size and skill and the tenacity to play that role, I think he's the guy that you want there playing that role for the Rangers. And Princess Bruley, 13, had similar sentiments. Put Cooley in front of the net. He was working on deflections last year and has no qualms about crashing the net. Totally agree. And again, both these comments were sent in before the Rangers actually did that, before they put Will Cooley there. So both Princess Bruley here and Nicole ahead of the game in suggesting that Will Cooley take on that role on the Ranger top power play unit. We've also got Glass for Hall of Fame. They need a shooter from the point to keep everybody honest. Yeah, that is something that this Ranger power play, even when it was like an elite unit, definitely kind of lacked a little bit because, typically it's Fox who's back there. And Fox will get you a couple of goals every season. Not many last year, certainly below his career average. But I don't think there are too many goalies around the NHL that live in fear of Adam Fox's shot from the blue line. I mean, there's just not a whole lot to be afraid of there. Fox is obviously a great passer. I think he does a great job quarterbacking the power play unit and plays well in the defensive zone as well, plays in all three zones. But yeah, I mean, I don't even know who that would be, though. That's the problem. The Rangers have so few bona fide shooters. I mean, you could put Panarin back there and have him release a few, but I don't know if that's the best use of Panarin on a power play. Either way, though, I think you do have a point there. Abby Blath says, forget about past success and start from scratch and put Laba on the power play. Yeah, I will never argue against Noah Laba having more ice time and a bigger role with the New York Rangers. I think that's coming in due time. I don't know about the top power play unit, but the second power play unit, he absolutely should be there, 100%. Mike says, let me know if you've heard this. Let's put Edstrom out there on power play 1 instead of Lafreniere, park his butt in front of the goalie, and dare someone to move him. I don't hate it. I mean, right now, I don't think they're going to do it because, again, they just put Will Cooley there, and that's sort of the role that they have for him, on that top power play unit. But there's no reason not to use Adam Edstrom on the second power play like this. They were doing it with Matt Rempe, right? So there's no reason why, with that same school of thought, you can't put Adam Edstrom there, unless you just feel like you must have Taylor Radish and Connor Sheary on the second power play unit, and you can't change that. And I would not say that that's the case. So we'll get back to a couple other funny suggestions here, and then we'll move on to some other topics. Who's laughing now? Says, have two guys stand in the slot facing the goaltender with their sticks on the ice. The other three throw wristers on goal, and we pray for a rebound within reach. So I thought this was kind of a funny response, but reading it now, I mean, maybe you actually could do that. I think this was definitely tongue-in-cheek here from Who's Laughing Now. But yeah, I mean, try anything to get this power play going, right? We've got Billy Hoyle, who says, I mean, they need good players on the power play. That would be a start. They have good players. Let's not go nuts here. Surprise Jarvis says, cancel the home games. Jimmy Dunks says, trade Panarin for someone who scores goals. The Big Whistle says, fire David Quinn again. No, let's not fire anybody. Let's see how the season actually plays out here. James says, trade a lot of players. I mean, they've already done that, haven't they? They traded like half their team from last season. And one of my favorites here, Frank Trujillo, I hope I'm saying that right. First, have a shaman come in to remove the bad juju on both power play units. Next, have a mass hypnotism to implant the thought that they actually have the ability to put the puck in the net. That's all I got. As far as creativity, I think Frank wins the day here. That's very clever. That's very creative, and we're gonna resort to hypnotism to get this Ranger power play moving again. So good stuff there from everybody. In just a minute, we're gonna switch our attention to basically grievances from Ranger fans. These are some complaints that the Ranger fans have about the owner, the GM, the coach, the players, the whole 9 yards here. So we'll do that next. So we'll end the episode on some positive comments as well. All right, we just want to take a minute to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Gametime. Hockey season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real, getting tickets can be a total headache. Between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout, it is easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer for your team. That's where Gametime comes in. It's the app that gives the fans the advantage. It's the ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. Their zone deals are a game changer. You pick the section, Gametime picks your seats, and you save big. You can even find NHL tickets for under $25. Take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, and go. All right, let's go ahead and keep everything rolling on today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers. Big shout out to the everydayers as always, and thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. So we're going to move into fans basically just taking shots at the Rangers. This is everything that you guys had to get off your chest, and we're going to go ahead and give you your moment here. Online Y says, Trocheck should have been named captain, makes an impact on the score sheet, gets the team emotionally invested without just throwing a tantrum, and does the little things like stand by the door to high-five everyone on the way out. JT is on fraud watch. You can make a very compelling case, and some of us did, and, I was on, Team JT as far as who the next captain of this Ranger team should be, but certainly there was a very compelling case to make Vincent Trocheck the next captain. They decided to go with JT Miller. I will defend JT a little bit here. Look at it this way. If we were told before the season that the Rangers would get shut out in 5 of their first 7 home games of the season, we would have said, oh my God, the Rangers are the worst team in the NHL, right? I mean, you would definitely assume that. Because if it's that bad at home, can't even imagine how bad it is on the road, right? As of this recording, the Rangers are 8-7-2. They've gotten points in 10 out of 17 games. That's solid. And they've also won 5 out of their last 7 games overall. This season could have gone off the rails very, very quickly. And just like we, go after the Ranger leaders, the guys that wear the letters when things are going badly, we have to give them props when things go well. The fact that the Rangers stuck with it, hung in there, they still don't have a very high scoring team. JT Miller himself needs to be better. I mean, 8 points in 17 games, that's not what you sign up for when it comes to JT Miller. But I think overall, he and the other leaders on this team, you have to give them at least some credit for keeping the Rangers in it, having them obviously ready to go whenever they're on the road. I mean, that really is just the strangest thing ever, the success on the road and the issues at home. If this was last season, I hate to always compare the two, but it really is inevitable when you think of how bad last season went and how quickly everything went off the rails. If you look at last season, if the Rangers went through a stretch like this, it would have just kept going and going and going, and they would have been just as bad on the road as they are at home. The fact that that hasn't happened, give JT Miller a point for that, give the Ranger leaders and the coaching staff too a point for that as well. Chris says, big enough sample size now that we know what we have, not enough talent. Look at the good teams in this league and honestly put our lineup against them. Just not enough. And there is no easy solution here, given the contracts and cap situation. Only action I can see them taking in the near term is calling up some of the guys and hoping that is a spark. So Chris sent this before Gabe Pro was called up, and obviously Vincent Trocheck is now back in the lineup as well. It's funny. I mean, the lineup before those two things happened, Gabe Pro and Vincent Trocheck both coming back, I think you've got a good point here, Chris. But that lineup just does look so much better with those two now in it. So hopefully there's enough there. I mean, I've said all along that scoring depth in general, it does seem like an issue. It does seem like a weakness of this New York Ranger team. But despite that, they have gotten some reinforcements lately in the form of Perot and Trocheck. Maybe Brett Berard can come up and make an impact at some point as well. I think that they're not as far behind other teams in terms of depth as it may appear, because every team in the NHL feels like they could use some more depth. Boxing Fan says, one thing I really don't understand is why Connor Sheary is still in this lineup with 3 exclamation points. So, yeah, I mean, look, there's nobody really to take the spot away from him right now. I mean, that's basically the long and short of it. You could call it Brett Berard, although he is off to a little bit of a slow start with the Hartford Wolfpack this season. Here's something that's pretty interesting, though. When Matt Rempe comes back, when he gets off of LTIR, you're looking at a situation, assuming that nobody else is injured, where somebody is going to have to either get waived or get sent down to the AHL, or both in some cases, because you're not going to have enough space for all those players. The Rangers right now are carrying 14 healthy forwards. And once Rempe comes back, that's 15th, and that's going to put you over the limit. You'll be at 24 players total. So once that happens, you got to figure either one of these 4 players is going to get waived, either Sheary, Radish, Brodzinski, or Parsonen, or one of these 2 players will get sent down. And they don't have to clear waivers. Gabe Perot or Noah Laba. And I would not do that. Noah Laba has been awesome. Gabe Perot, I mean, as of this recording, he's only played 1 game, but he looked great. And I think this team, like we just got done talking about, they need more scoring threats, not less of them. So, yeah, once Rempe's back, I mean, you're not going to waive Rempe. You're not going to waive Edstrom. I think Sam Carrick is safe. Yeah, it's pretty much one of those 4, Sheary, Radish, Brodzinski, or Parsonen. And honestly, Sheary, I have to double check this. I have to look into this more. He might be able to be sent down to the AHL. I don't know this 100%, and I have to look into it. He might be able to be sent down to the AHL without having to clear waivers because he was on a PTO, and I believe he has a 2-way contract, I think, but I got to look that up to know for sure. We'll see. But yeah, one of those guys you got to think, I mean, at least one of them probably isn't going to make it through the season with the Rangers, but we'll see. DD says, I wouldn't be against literally cutting every single player on this squad. Come on, dude. Go through a real rebuild. Not one player on this roster would I ever rock their jersey. Well, look, jerseys are not cheap, and I get that. As far as like cutting every single player on the roster, I mean, they're not going to do that either. I think certainly there are some bright spots on this Ranger team to start the season. The Rangers went through, a real rebuild, I would say. The thing is, they got better faster than anybody thought that they would. And the one thing that they did that didn't seem like it was a move that a rebuilding team would do was to sign Artemi Panarin to that massive contract. But that turned out great. He's led the team in scoring every single season. And on top of that, I mean, you need something there. That to me was part of the rebuild, even though it was somebody that you were signing from another team. He was sort of the centerpiece of the rebuild and a player that you could build around. And obviously it mostly went well throughout Panarin's tenure as a New York Ranger. Here's a comment that I just had to share. It wasn't really negative all that much, but it was more directed at me. I just have to share this one for you guys. We can stop with the stats. That's it. That was the comment. We can stop with the stats. This is a sports podcast. There are going to be stats. I don't know what to tell you. Imagine trying to do a sports podcast without stats. All right, here's another one that needs to be heard to be believed. Not enough talent. That is it. Top players are aging and losing interest. They have hobbies and kids. Work comes for them after those. Get players who live for hockey, not for kids, parties, or hobbies, just for hockey like Yager did. You heard it here, folks. Per this comment, no players on the New York Rangers are allowed to start a family, have kids, probably be married, have any interest other than the game of hockey. In fact, if anybody on this Ranger team is ever heard talking about anything other than hockey, they must be cut immediately. They must be sent away. They must be traded. Dude, like, come on. They're allowed to have families. It'll be okay. 51 Disco says, the Rangers will always suck with Dolan owning the team. Chris Drury is a joke, truly incompetent. I mean, let's let the season play out. The story is yet to be written this year. Last year was a disaster, and I get the anger and everything, but definitely a mixed bag so far to start this season. And then Blake Wheeler's burner account says, trade Igor, blow the team up, fire Sullivan and Drury, make Dolan sell the team. Well, who's going to make Dolan sell the team? I mean, that can't happen. I mean, look, a different owner for this team, sure. I would not hate that, obviously. Um, Firing Mike Sullivan, I mean, he just got here. There's a lot of people that are on the fire Drury bandwagon for sure. I think at the least he'll get to finish out this season, depending on how it goes for the Rangers. I mean, his job certainly could be on the line this year. Trade Igor, I mean, he's got the full no move clause. Blow the team up. We'll see. I mean, this might be a very different looking Ranger team at the start of next season, as it was this season, by the way. This is a very different looking New York Ranger team, but I think what Blake is going for here is he'd like a full, true rebuild as opposed to the retooling that we saw from last year to this season. But I mean, we'll see. We're definitely still in wait and see mode as it pertains to this team doing anything drastic. So in just a minute, we're going to shift our attention again to the more positive comments, the people that seem to have some optimism in this team and how everything could play out the rest of the season. We will get to those comments in just a second. All right, we just want to take a minute to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports gaming partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, let's go ahead and wrap up today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers by looking at some positive comments. Some of those fans and listeners who have not given up hope and, are still faithful or at least semi-confident that the Rangers, could still have a decent season here. We're actually going to begin with a question, though, from Dan Scatoro, who wanted me to answer this one. Who should quarterback the second power play? No one stands out. As you say, as far as the Rangers are currently constructed, my pick would be Robertson. Oh, wait, he's scratched. Yeah, Robertson, to me, he's getting the short end of the stick a little bit. I don't think Vakanainen has played terribly or anything like that. I lean a little bit toward Robertson. As far as who quarterbacks the second power play, if and when Scott Morrow gets called up, that's his job. I think they would throw him out there on the second power play. The split second he gets here, the split second that he dresses for a game. He actually was called up earlier this season, but he was a healthy scratch for like 2 or 3 games before they sent him back down. So I think Morrow is certainly your guy. That's kind of his MO, being an offensive defenseman and being somebody that can quarterback a power play unit. So he's your guy if he gets called up. If he doesn't, I mean, I think they're doing the right thing going with Braden Schneider as the second power play unit, at least in terms of the defensemen that are active on game night. You could make a little bit of a case for Matthew Robertson. I believe he's played that role in the past, the Hartford Wolfpack, and he does seem to be a pretty mobile defenseman as well. So you got to like that for the power play. The other option, you could go without a defenseman at all. You could go with 5 forwards. And in that case, I mean, Lafreniere quarterback in the second power play unit. I mean, we heard so much about his hockey instincts and how well he sees the ice and all these great passes and how he can fit passes through tight windows. I mean, we sometimes see that with Lafreniere, and then there's stretches where we don't see that at all. I mean, do you want him back there running point on the blue line? I guess you could try it if you want to try something a little bit outside the box. But yeah, those are your options. I think the way the team stands right now, I would probably just leave Braden Schneider there. AJ Mangino says, can't say enough about Gavrikov, in my opinion. We needed a solid defenseman to anchor so badly. Trade him for Miller any day. Yeah, I do think going from K'Andre Miller to Vladislav Gavrikov is an upgrade for the Rangers. You could talk about upside and potential and all this stuff. K'Andre Miller was here for half a decade, and he got off to a great start, and I think he regressed, certainly last year, and I would think also the year before that. You can talk about upside and all that stuff. Gavrikov is as solid, consistent, and steady as any defenseman in hockey, at least when it comes to defense. There's other guys that are going to chip in more offensively for sure. Gavrikov will get his assists here and there, and he is a good passer. But yeah, I like this move. I know Gavrikov's a little bit older as well, and I know that gave some Ranger fans some pause about, I mean, it wasn't a literal trade, but yeah, they basically traded K'Andre Miller for Vladislav Gavrikov. And, there were some people worried about that, but I like this move overall for sure. Big Red says, good stick by Gavrikov can be heard numerous times when the Rangers are playing. You definitely couldn't play a drinking game using that phrase. Well, I'll leave that up to you. I'll leave that up to anybody that plays the Ranger drinking game, whoever that might be out there. Robert says, in 1971, we returned to our seats in section 445, row E, seats 4 and 5, when Stemmer, number 21, scored the triple overtime goal. Yeah, so this is a response from Robert in response, I guess, to one of the Ranger theme nights. We talked about the different players that were honored on the ice before the game. And there was a triple overtime winner by the Rangers. I believe it was game 6 of the semifinals off the top of my head back in 1971. So cool to hear from, an old school Ranger fan who obviously was at that game. And that must have been amazing. You got your money's worth that night. You basically saw 2 games in one and all kinds of action and everything. And, you saw your team. If I got the game right, I believe that's the game where the Rangers won well, they definitely won in triple overtime, but they also punched their ticket to the Stanley Cup final. PBMC says, Perreault and Berard, I want both in the lineup. Yeah, you might get your wish sooner rather than later. We'll see. Gabe Perreault, that called up. It happened a little bit earlier than I would have liked. I like the idea of him building confidence, developing his game in Hartford in the AHL. And he only ended up getting 9 games there. But this offense was so stagnant and just looking so dead in the water. They had to try something to spark this team a little bit. And obviously, they called up Gabe. And as for Berard, you guys know, the everydayers, I'm a big fan of him. Like his game a lot. Not the biggest guy out there, but absolutely tenacious. Fights for pucks. Like his life is on the line. And I thought he did a nice job last season. I do think eventually you will see him promoted back to the Rangers. So be patient on that one. I think it's only a matter of time before Berard is called back up. But like I said earlier, he is off to a little bit of a slow start with Hartford. Once he picks it up a little bit, which I think he eventually will do, we might see him back with the Rangers. Lenny says, glass half full. At least they are awesome on the road. It's kept them in a position to push forward, and a hot streak can put this team in a good position. So, yeah, first of all, I like the glass half full approach. And obviously, the Rangers have to date been a heck of a lot better on the road than at home for a whole bunch of different reasons. But, I was thinking about this after I read this comment, and that's what's so crazy here. The Rangers currently are 8-7-2 overall. So it's not the car crash start to the season that a lot of us, myself included, have always made it out to be. And obviously, it's been helped by the fact that the Rangers, as of this recording, have won 5 of their last 7 games. But you look at the splits here, and they really are insane, and they bear repeating. 1-6-1 at home, even with the most recent home game being a win. 7-1-1 on the road. Even if the Rangers had just played 500 hockey at home to start the season, like let's say instead of going 1-6-1 at home, we'll keep the overtime loss and we'll say that they went 4-3-1 at home, right? And that's still 4 wins and 3 losses. If that was the case, the Rangers would have 6 extra points right now. They would have an overall record right now of 11-4-1 if they had just played 500 hockey at home in Madison Square Garden. That's a total of 23 points, and they would be tied with the Devils for the best record in the Eastern Conference. And I know that's a lot of what ifs and woulda, coulda, shoulda. And look, I could sit here and say, well, if they won all their games, they'd be undefeated. I understand that. But just looking at what a difference that would have made if instead of just being terrible at home to start the season, they had just been okay, just average, they'd be among the NHL's elite right now. And a lot of us, including a lot of people that sending comments for this episode, would be singing a totally different tune right now. But you look at this from a positive light, the Rangers right now, again, as of this recording, are tied with the Kings for the most road wins in the NHL with 7. And they have, the Rangers, the fewest road losses of any team in the NHL, including, regulation losses and overtime losses as well. So that's pretty crazy to think about. It's been a strange start to the season, a mixed bag, but hopefully things are looking up from here on. But we'll call it there. If you guys would like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, @jchick17. Once again, @jchik17. And definitely subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.